I went to Shiny Hunt the Pokémon Legends ZA starters in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. On Pokémon Day 2025, we finally found out who would be the first partner Pokémon for Pokémon Legends ZA. I don't think anyone predicted the trio of Tepig, Totodile, and Chikorita, but I'm super excited for these overlooked Pokémon to finally get some more love. In my quest for these shiny Pokémon, I decided to go to the Indigo Disc DLC in the one and only Scarlet and Violet. I decided to hunt Tepig to start, mainly because he was the first outbreak I found when resetting for starter outbreaks in the Indigo Disc DLC. I'm shiny hunting in Pokémon Violet. The game's notorious for handing out shiny Pokémon like candy. So this should be easier than finding a Zubat in Mount Moon, right? I decided to make my quest a bit more challenging by catching 3 shinies of each starter, so I could have all of their forms shiny. I started my quest in the Canyon biome by making a sandwich that boosted my Sparkling and Fire encounter power. Next, to give myself the best odds possible in this awful rainstorm, I defeated 60 Tepigs from the outbreak. Then, to get fresh spawns, I biked back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and where are the shinies? Now, I was starting to get a bit worried, but there was still at least half the time left for my sandwich. So, while I was shiny failing, I stayed motivated by thinking about possible typings for a new ZA form for Imbor. I really like the idea of a ground fire Imbor, as a reference to truffle hunting pigs, like the kind they have in Stardew Valley. Truffle pigs were apparently pretty popular in France, so the French-Kalos connection is there. After my first sandwich failed, I reset the outbreak and started again. However, this time I decided not to KO any Tepig from the outbreak, instead just riding back and forth to spawn and respawn new Tepigs. Since Tepig is the only fire-type Pokémon spawning in this area, my sandwich made sure there were plenty of them spawning in the area. This time around, I quickly found my first shiny. Nice. Time to check little babe's nature. I'm gonna guess lonely. And it's bashful. But it has the uncommon mark. Meet Babe the Sociable. My luck was starting to turn around because I shortly found my second shiny Tepig. I named him Bandana because I think their little ears kind of resemble bandanas. I think Bandana might be naive. But he's hasty. Oh well. And he has another uncommon mark. Very cool. Then, not long after finding the second one, my shiny Tepig hunt came to a close. I named this little guy Napoleon, so I think he's going to be adamant. Oh, he's jolly. And unfortunately, he broke the mark streak. With Tepig out of the way, I continued resetting until I stumbled upon a Chikorita outbreak in the coastal biome. This outbreak wasn't quite as easy to find as the Tepig one, but I got it in about 30 minutes, so it wasn't too bad. After I used the wrong recipe for the first sandwich, I reset and made a Sparkling Grass Encounter 3 sandwich on this ledge in the coastal biome. However, unlike with Tepig, this Chikorita outbreak was near a bunch of other grass spawns. So I couldn't generate as many spawns for Chikorita as quickly as I had with Tepig, but I was still determined. I circled around the outbreak area and fantasized about a new Legend ZA form for Meganium. I think Meganium's new typing will be the most predictable. Grass and Fairy. The Fairy type complements the pink on Meganium's flower, and several of its Pokédex entries reference its ability to calm negative emotions or revive dead plants. which sounds magical and fairy-like to me. Also, in the first Legends ZA gameplay trailer, several people noticed that Chikorita knew Disarming Voice, a fairy-type move that it couldn't learn previously. All of these are strong indicators that Meganium will gain the fairy-type, in my opinion. Anyway, I wasn't having any luck finding my shiny Chikoritas, so I reset the outbreak and made a new sandwich. To my surprise, a shiny appeared almost immediately. I love when grass Pokemon gain an autumnal color scheme in their shiny forms, and I think Chikorita pulls that off super well. I caught my first Chikorita and nicknamed him Boone. Time for the nature check. I'm gonna guess mild. And it's timid. 0 out of 4 for the nature guesses. And no mark, sadly. I went back to searching while there was still time left in my sandwich, but I didn't find much other than a bunch of Execute. Aren't you guys supposed to be expensive? And I found this really tall Chikorita, who wasn't shiny either. So I moved the time back on my Switch to preserve the outbreak for another day. I continued my quest the next day with another sandwich. The odds weren't looking great as I was nearing the end of my sandwich timer. And, Bambi, I don't have time for this. What would your mother say? I had about 3 minutes left when I struck gold with a buzzer beater. Man, if only Bayleaf and Meganium shinies were as striking as Chikorita's, they would look so good. This little guy is gonna be Lima Bean, the first and only vegetable I ate as a kid. I think he's a lonely boy, but he's gentle and markless. I only captured 2 shiny Chikoritas from the outbreak, but I had something special in mind for the third one. For now, I decided to move my attention to Totodile. If you play Pokemon Go, you may remember that we recently had a Community Day Classic for Totodile. While I did have my luckiest Community Day ever, and ended up with a whopping 9 Totodiles, I wanted to be true to my first love, the video games, and catch my Totodiles in Violet. But there was one small problem. Actually, finding the outbreak. You see, Totodile outbreaks are some of the rarest to encounter in Scarlet and Violet, and after resetting for several hours, I wasn't having any luck. That is, until I learned something new. Did you know you can boost the rate of certain outbreaks with encounter power sandwiches? Well, I've apparently been living under a rock, because Scarlet and Violet have been out for almost 3 years now, and I didn't even know you could. With that in mind, I made a level 2 water encounter power sandwich and began resetting anew for a Totodile outbreak. I reset for over a year's worth of dates, and even managed to find an equally rare Sobble outbreak, and even catch a shiny Sobble in the process. But still no Totodile outbreak. I was beginning to rethink shunning my lovely shiny Totodiles from Pokemon Go when I finally found the outbreak in these small swamp ponds in the savanna biome. Now that the hard part was seemingly over, I made my level 3 sparkling and water encounter power sandwich and channeled my inner crocodile hunter as I began my expedition into the swamps. While I was relieved to have finally found the outbreak, this location has a similar problem for Totodile as Chikorita had. It can't be hunted as an isolated encounter because there are several other water-type Pokemon that spawn around it. This means that fewer Totodiles will spawn overall, making it harder to find a shiny one. But I circled around this larger swamp, keeping my eyes peeled for a mint green crocodile with little blue spikes on its back. Eventually, I finally struck gold on my second sandwich. I named this little guy Kiwi. I'm gonna guess that kiwi has a hasty nature. Oh, nice. I'm finally right. But no mark. That's all right. While I made a third sandwich and continued to hunt in the swamps, I daydreamed about a new form for Feraligatr. I would love for him to become water and poison for a couple of reasons. First, the poison type could be a reference to the expansive sewer system under Paris. These sewers have been featured in popular French literature, like Les Miserables. So Feraligatr could have acquired the poison type from lurking around in the toxic, iconic sewer system. Second, and admittedly less important, the poison typing could add some purple to Feraligatr's color scheme, which I think would complement his blue scales better than the red does. Regardless of what direction Game Freak goes in, I'm excited to hopefully see a new form for Feraligatr. Now, back to Totodile. I didn't have any more luck with my second sandwich, so I made a third one, and quickly found my second shiny Totodile. Meet Seth. I think Seth has a naive nature, but he's hasty, just like Kiwi. And no mark. Now I only had one shiny Totodile left to get. So how long could this take? I tried not one, not two, not three, but 5 additional sandwiches, all to no avail. After raiding my local Subway for some extra ingredients, I made I don't even know what number sandwich and kept searching. At least these swamps are really pretty to drive around in, and oh my god, finally. Number 3 finally showed up. I named my third Totodile Big Tree. He ended up being calm, but no mark. With the Totodile and Tepig hunts complete, I had my sights set on the final shiny Chikorita. I wanted to do something different for this final hunt, because Chikorita holds a special place in my heart. The Johto starters, games, and anime were all my favorites growing up, and remain that way to this day. Even though I admittedly didn't pick Chikorita as my first Johto starter, that honor goes to Cyndaquil. I did gain an appreciation for her due to Ash's Bayleaf in the anime. So, after a bit of debate between Totodile and Chikorita, sorry Tepig, I decided to choose Chikorita as my starter for Pokémon Legends ZA. And to commemorate this choice, I wanted to do my first ever successful Masuda Method shiny hunt in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. I know I'm a bit late to the Masuda Method game, but this technically wasn't my first attempt. I had tried to Masuda hunt Slowpoke and Shuckle in Pokémon Diamond in 2008, but I'd given up pretty quickly. I had also tried a few Masuda hunts in Pokémon Sword and Pokémon Brilliant Diamond, but I hadn't gotten further than 100 or so eggs before moving on. This time, however, I was determined to hatch a shiny. I got into a pretty good rhythm gathering eggs in Pokémon Violet. With a couple of egg-powered meals and a picnic, I could easily gather over 100 eggs in an hour. And I could hatch them all in about half that time. I actually really enjoy hatching eggs in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet because it's so quick and you can do it just about anywhere. While I mostly hatched my eggs around Alfornada, where I made my picnic, I did explore some other routes while hatching, and I think this was made a lot easier in this game due to the open world environment. My hunt was going well when I hit a small roadblock. I had hatched over 300 eggs in Pokémon Violet when I needed to move some Chikoritas over to Pokémon Home to make space in my boxes. However, when I went to open Home on my Switch, I had a small error message. So instead of messing up Home and possibly all of the Pokemon I have stored in there, I decided to change my Masuda hunt up a bit by hunting in my copy of Scarlet instead of Violet. I don't have the shiny charm in Scarlet, So the odds here are now 1 in 682 instead of 1 in 512. To prepare in Pokemon Scarlet, I bred a little over 100 eggs and began to hatch them around Alfornada. I was in for a bit of a surprise. No way. Number 3. I got my final shiny Chikorita on only the 3rd egg in the save file. I couldn't believe my luck. My first Masuda method hunt was successful and under odds. If I combine that number with the number of eggs I hatched in Pokemon Violet, it only took me 329 eggs total to get my shiny Chikorita. And most of this hunt was done really passively over the span of a week. So it ended up being much easier than probably the majority of my outbreak hunts. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know if you shiny hunted any of the Legends ZA starter Pokemon, or if you have plans to. Thank you all for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.